The Mikaela, Naylon Give Kids a Chance Act was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives on Monday. You're the author of this bill. Tell our viewers, what will it do?
It does several things. One, most importantly, it reauthorizes the Creating Hope Act, which provided a market incentive for pharmaceutical companies to basically create and provide drug therapies for childhood cancer. When I started the caucus 16 years ago, there's little attention paid to the children. It was all about the adults. We tried to change that, and the Creating Hope Act actually led to the FDA approval of Dr. Allison's CAR-T immunotherapy at MD Anderson, which is a major cancer breakthrough. And it was this bill that we're reauthorizing that created the FDA approval process through this voucher program. That has saved so many lives now, not only children, but adults as well. Secondly, the bill also provides that children can receive multiple drug therapies that adults now can receive. So we're putting children on the same level of adults when it comes to multiple drug therapies. These things together, I think, will save a lot of children's lives in the future. It's really rare up here to be able to pass a bill that saves kids' lives, and this is one of them. We named it after Mikaela, who I met at our annual summit in September. I got her into a clinical trial at Texas Children's and MD Anderson. Unfortunately, she passed away 3 weeks after that. And so we had her parents in the gallery, a lot of cancer survivors, children in the audience yesterday on the floor. It was a very heartwarming occasion. And best of all, in a very partisan environment we're in right now in DC, this was the most bipartisan bill passed by Congress during this Congress with 313 co-sponsors, and it passed unanimously on the floor yesterday.
You've been working at this for close to 2 decades. You mentioned 16 years ago starting this caucus. From your experience, why is it that we don't have as many treatments for pediatric cancer cases?
So that's a great question. When I started looking at this almost 2 decades ago, we didn't pay a lot of attention to the children because they call them rare orphan diseases, which I thought was really insulting to these children. They're not orphans and they're not rare. The disease is more rare though, and that was the problem. There was no market incentive for the drug companies to develop childhood cancer therapies. So what this reauthorization bill does, the Creating Hope Act, through this market incentive that we created with an FDA voucher system, it does incentivize the drug companies to come forward and do clinical trials. And since the inception of that program, we've had over 60 vouchers issued, and about 40 childhood cancer therapies have come out since the initial passage of that bill. What we did yesterday is reauthorize it for 5 more years, given the success of the program, which, as I mentioned earlier, led really to the Nobel Prize for Medicine awarded to Dr. Allison at MD Anderson using this voucher program. And it was actually a childhood cancer study that he developed the CAR-T immunotherapy for.
So this bill, it reauthorizes this incentive program for another 5 years. This is going to be one of your last acts as a congressman. You're retiring after this session. It reauthorizes it for 5 years. Do you think in those 5 years we'll be in a better spot and be somewhere where you'll be happy with, where we are with treatments for pediatric cancers?
I do. I love the slogan at MD Anderson, making cancer history. It may not be in my lifetime, but I hope it's in these children's lifetime. And I do think 5 more years, it's already been hugely successful. And I think 5 more years will really solidify this program, but also, most importantly, it'll save so many lives of children. Mikaela represents those who did not make it. The survivors have, and they still have many issues. Many of them were on the floor of the gallery yesterday. But, it's the ones that didn't make it that breaks my heart. But I have a lot of hope that we're going to have a lot more survivors of cancer now moving forward in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned Mikaela's name will be on this bill forever.
Yeah.
Her family was in the gallery. Did you get a chance to speak with them afterwards? What was that conversation like?
I did. I met with them at the summit. I also met with them yesterday in my office. We blew up two pictures. One was their favorite picture of her, very classy. The other one was at the summit where I was with her. And I took them on a Capitol tour yesterday and just talked to them about their daughter and what her legacy means for the cause. Her name is enshrined in the bill now forever, and it will be in the congressional record. And it's the least we could do for her. And she really symbolizes, I think, all the children who've died from this disease and also the cause that the survivors are fighting for. And, it's rare to pass a bill that saves these kids' lives, as I said. And, my whole theme in my career over 2 decades has been to help those that are more vulnerable in society, whether it be childhood cancer, whether it be Ukrainians who are being slaughtered by the Russian invasion, churches being bombed, maternity hospitals, 20,000 children kidnapped from Ukraine, sent to Russia to be indoctrinated against their own nation. Those are the injustices I've tried to stand up against during my tenure in Congress.
Okay, it's a great bill, bipartisan bill. I want to switch gears now, and I want to talk about Afghanistan. We had a tragedy last week when 2 National Guard troops were shot outside in Washington, D.C., outside the White House. And it's led to a new push from the Trump administration to freeze the asylum cases from anyone from Afghanistan and any new visas from Afghanistan. We talk about the people who are here right now, who were refugees that came over in 2021 and since 2021 to escape the Taliban. These are people that maybe even helped our U.S. government while we were there. I want to get your reaction to all these developments happening right now.
Now, it's very tragic, very sad, not only to have National Guardsmen shot and killed, but what this one person has done now to the cause that I've fought so hard for, and that is to protect those that we said we would provide protection for. We told them, our Afghan partners in Afghanistan, if you work with us to defeat the Taliban, we will protect you from them. And we broke our word on that promise, and we left them behind in Afghanistan to be hunted down by the Taliban. And for those who are in this country, the standard for in immigration is a fear of political persecution. For asylum, I can't think of a stronger case than a fear of being sent back to Afghanistan to be terrorized by the Taliban. And unfortunately, this one bad apple has really ruined the lives of so many Afghans that we promised we would protect. I just find this incredibly sad and very tragic. I fought very hard to protect them when they have not been, and we gave them our word. I will continue to work on this, but this one case, I have to be honest, Dylan, has really been a problem.
This one case, what do you mean, with just Afghanistan or with this bad actor?
With this bad actor. I think it's really hurt the cause to help protect these people from Afghanistan in fear of being persecuted by the Taliban. And it's really been a major setback in a bad way.
Is there any way we can get back from this? I mean, is there any work that you can do to speak with the Trump administration to ensure that, the families or the people who are here that did help and do have fear of being killed if they get back to their home country? I mean, is there anything you can do on your end or your colleagues in the Congress?
Well, I did authorize out of our committee, my committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee, authorization of what's called the CARE Office. That's the office in charge of basically, getting these what they call special immigrant visa holders out of Afghanistan and out of harm's way. I hope that authorization will still pass the Congress so we can help them. But we're going to have to re-examine the whole program in light of this shooting that took place. And I know the Trump administration has put a hold on all these cases. And again, it's the one bad apple ruining, the whole bunch. It's a bad precedent, very unfortunate and very tragic, in my opinion.
Yeah. And when these asylum cases are on hold, do you think people will be allowed to stay in this country while they're on hold, or they could be sent back to their home country?
I mean, that's my concern is they're going to be sent back.
Yeah.
And sent back to what? Sent back to persecution from the Taliban. We know that the current Afghan partners who worked with our CIA, worked with our military who are still in Afghanistan, the Taliban has gotten the biometrics that we left behind, and they go door to door to check fingerprints. And if you're matched for positive, you're then tortured, beaten, and sometimes executed. I don't want them to suffer that fate. Now, I will tell you with the debacle of how Afghanistan fell and the way it was handled by the prior administration, there were many Afghans that did get onto the airplanes that shouldn't have in the first place. And that's because of the chaos that we saw at the HKIA airport and the tragic days that towards the end, and especially the suicide bomber that killed 13 servicemen and women that came out of Bagram Air Base. He was an ISIS-K affiliate who was released out of Bagram. Unfortunately, our own State Department was complicit with that.
Do you know if those Afghans that should not have been on those planes but were able to get on in the chaos, do you know if we've been able to track those people down and actually expel them from the country?
Yes.
We have.
Most of them have been there is a vetting process, and most of them that shouldn't have been on the planes have been vetted, and they have been returned. Some under these asylum claims, they call them P1, P2, are still being vetted. Now, this one individual who shot the guardsman had been vetted, but something must have snapped with him. He did not have a special immigrant visa, which is important to note. But I think something must have happened. Maybe he was upset he didn't get his visa to stay. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Were you aware of there was a press release I got this morning from the Department of Justice. They arrested a 30-year-old Afghan national who was living in Fort Worth. He was, there was video, he posted videos online of, threatening to do some sort of suicide mission and, I think he was making a bomb. Were you aware of this person that was just recently arrested?
Yeah, I am. And putting my former chairman of Homeland Security hat on, this is kind of ticking time bomb case we always worried about. When we had foreign fighters enter into this country or radicalization over the internet. I don't know all the extent of the vetting that may have been done on him. I will tell you though that it was the Afghanistan community that gave the tips to turn him in to local law enforcement authorities. So I compliment our Afghan population. The majority of these people are good people who were fleeing one of the most horrific elements I've seen in my lifetime, and that's the torture and abuse of the Taliban and the way they treat women in a very primitive way. But it's unfortunate, again, another case of a bad apple that's going to ruin the lives of many Afghans who are deservingly should be given safe haven from the Taliban.
Of course. And one last question on Afghanistan. You talk about vetting, the vetting process. USCIS, they updated their standards following this tragedy in DC. Can you talk to us about what those updates do? I know that I don't want to paraphrase or anything, so I'll let you explain it, but what do those updates do, and do you think that they're beneficial or that this may be an overcorrection from the Trump administration?
Well, I do think vetting is key here, and I'm not opposed to more vetting. I think when they say updating the vetting, that means someone who may have been vetted, perhaps they're going to update that vetting process, like the Afghan who shot the National Guard, National Guard soldiers. Possibly an update in vetting would have helped in that situation. So I'm certainly supportive. Tom Cotton and others, we worked on a bill to help the people who are Afghans who are in the country, who are seeking political asylum. But part of that exchange would be the vetting process. So in other words, we could advance their immigration process, but we would also strengthen the vetting process with the ones that are currently in detention.
Okay, I want to move on to my last question. This one, we'll see how you answer this one. It's be a tough one, so I'll be sure to frame it in a way that give you an easy answer here. Congressman Darrell Issa, he's a representative from California. Reports coming out that he's thinking about a possible run in Texas if the U.S. Supreme Court upholds our current redistricting map that passed this year. Thoughts on, do you know who Darrell Issa is? Do you have any kind of established relationship with the man? And what do you think of a Californian possibly throwing their hat in the ring to run for a Texas congressional seat in the next couple of months?
Well, Dylan, we have a lot of Californians in Austin, as you know. We've had a lot of immigration from California, if you will, and I don't know if they've been vetted. We'll talk about that later. But having said that, yeah, Darrell's a good friend of mine. I think it is kind of interesting to see a Californian run in Texas. This all started with, the maps having to change in Texas with 5 new seats, then Proposition 50 in California, and we, now they're getting rid of all the Republican seats in California, so that became a wash. This is all hypothetical. I think we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court does on the maps before I think we take any serious steps in that direction.
Well, updating our vetting process for California transplants, hey, write up a bill. You got some time left in Congress. Okay, Representative McCaul, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to talk about? Any topics?
That may be your headline. Although I've met a lot of good Californians in my district, and they're not all they're like-minded, some of them, and they bring a lot of technology experience and expertise to Austin, which, as you know, I'm a huge technology fan, and having introduced and passed the Chips for America Act, I think that's the most America First bill you can think of to manufacture semiconductor chips as we have in Central Texas, and particularly advanced semiconductor chips. When you look at Taiwan manufacturing 90% of that, we've got to do a better job manufacturing those advanced chips in the United States. And it's important to note that's the advanced chips that get us into the AI window. So when we talk about AI technology, that all starts with the advanced semiconductor chip. And that's why the great power competition, I think what we're doing with the CHIPS Act in Central Texas plays a big role in that as well.
Well, the CHIPS Act definitely, but on specifically AI, do you think, and this is just a question that I always ponder, do we need to put a pause on AI's advancement right now? Or do you think the way it's running in the market, in the free marketplace, that it's a good thing?
Well, I'm against over-regulating things. I don't want to stifle innovation and technology. Certainly, there are some concerns about AI, but technology is neutral. It can be used for good or bad things. We got to make sure it stays in the right hands with America, the United States, and our allies, and we got to worry about it being in the hands of our adversaries. But I do think that, look, the genie's out of the bottle. AI is going to go forward. AI is going to do some great things in terms of health. Just think about childhood cancer, all the data that my bills have produced. We use AI. It's a forward, fast process in terms of thinking and results and solutions. And I think it's a very exciting time if done correctly. And I think Austin, Central Texas is going to play a big role in this. I know a lot of the data centers are going to be probably located in Central Texas. So I think it's something you keep an eye on. But the advancements are going to be huge for this country. We just have to make sure it stays in the right hands and doesn't end up in our adversaries' hands.
Okay. Congressman McCaul, that's all the questions I had for you. I appreciate you being candid with me and having a good conversation here.
Always, Dylan. Good talking to you.